Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Episode 94. I am back this week. James and I got back today from our fall booster, which went pretty well. There was a good number of first-timers there, I will say. It was good to see some new
Very
faces.
proud of that.
Yes. And
I remember when James was the first timer. Okay. I'm sorry. You're talking about the convention. Okay, go ahead.
Oh boy, we're off to
There's
a
your-
we're off on a running start.
Starting
now.
early. Starting
your
early.
clip tonight.
So, how was your week, James?
Well, it started getting bad actually. So I did not make the truck Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and DPS was late Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and it was just political. Literally every single day, I was stopping at every single box to deliver one of the 4 or 5 political flyers that I had in there. Some people were getting all 5, some were only getting 1 or 2, but it was terrible. And then I found out after getting to the fall booster, because I worked Friday and then drove up to the fall booster, I found out Saturday that our DPS didn't come in. So I'm probably looking forward to 2 runs of DPS on Monday. But got up to the fall booster, got my room, got some dinner finally, and went to sleep. Then got up for the booster, spent the weekend in the booster. We had our standard laissez-faire there. We'll talk about in a bit. And then Sunday was Q&A with the steward, with another great informational piece there. And then drove all the way back here just in time to have about an hour of prep time for the podcast. So starting off on I'm running behind on everything foot from Tuesday on. How about you, Bill? How was your retired week?
God, I tell you, it got to the point where when I get up to do my not to do list, I don't do the list of not to do's.
That's bad.
I mean, it is. It's torturous. It really is. I mean, it's exasperating. It really is. But I'm fielding daily calls, from people in my office, people from across the country, some instant messaging from people on my route. Customers going, "Where the hell are you?" We want you back. I was like, I'm almost feeling guilty. But I did. Me and my wife took our grandson over to see one of my elderly customers yesterday, and had a nice visit with her. And I just, God, I'm trying to get over the guilt. I really am. I mean, I feel like I've let them down, and I know Angry Bill. He's got feelings, yeah, and it's not just gas. It's just listening to the things, and we have a situation in my office where the former ADR who lost the local steward position to me is now chirping on the floor, trying to cause all kinds of situations and consternations. And somebody called me up about it, and I'm going to send him the 14-page report to this individual so he can take it and stick it in this guy's face and say, "Well, here you go. This is what we're chirping about." The backstabbing, and here's what gets me, ladies and gentlemen. When you're arguing with each other on the floor, you don't like this person, you don't like that person. That's fine and dandy. This ADR who has basically milked the system for 6 years turned around and made the comment that, "Well, your statement jeopardized my career. It jeopardized my family's future, this, that, and the other." No, your actions are what caused it. Not the fact that you got reported on it. If you didn't do the things that you've done in the past, your own interest, then guess what? We wouldn't have a problem. And people say, well, he's just looking out for his family. No, when you're in the position of a steward, area steward, ADR, DR, you're in the position to serve others first. That's why you get in there. You don't turn around and you ask, a soldier or a Marine, and there is a difference, whether or not they'll go all the way in protecting your freedoms. As soon as they sign that dotted line, they've put their life on the line for you in any little shithole across the country, the world. And that's how it is. That's what's expected of them. Should no less than service to your craft be your duty as a employee of the NSS. And that's the problem. It's a position of entitlement, just like our national board. And I'm tired of it. So that's how my week went, putting out fires at my former office.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
Frequency? Bite your tongue.
Well, it's been a couple weeks since I've been on here, guys. So,
And we behaved last week.
I haven't even listened to it yet. I will admit, I'm a little behind on things, but no, I had the 4-day. I had the 4-day weekend, and so I took Ruby and the baby down to my parents, did some visiting, and ran into one of my besties that we've been good friends since elementary school, and went over to her house since that's why I wasn't on, and her kids wanted to see the baby and the significant other, so we went and hung out with them for a while. And then Monday, when we left my parents, we headed over to one of Ruby's aunts, one of them that helped throw the baby shower, and visited with her and 2 out of the 3 of her kids, and then headed home. I was off Tuesday, got to snuggle the little one while Ruby went to school, and I worked Wednesday and Thursday. I did not make truck either day, and that was mainly because of mail. I had 130 scans on Wednesday, only because I found out they held the packages back on Tuesday, but no big deal. I got back, I clocked in at like 8:11, got back at 4:15ish, or 4:20ish.
Oh my God, you almost had to work a whole day.
I know. And then Thursday, I only had 73 scans Thursday. And I actually left the office a half hour earlier than I did on Wednesday, but I got back a half hour later than I did Wednesday because it was all, I had 3 packed trays of DPS that was all political crap.
And that stuff's horrible the way it sticks to each other.
It is. It really is. And you were having it. So yeah, my Thursday was longer. Then I took Friday off to head over to Booster. I like to sit in on our state board meetings when I can. So Ruby and little man and I, after Thursday after work, headed over to Traverse City and went and did my thing on Friday. Gave Ruby the car, and she went and picked her sister up after school, and they came back. It was at Great Wolf Lodge, so it worked out perfect. Saturday was Ruby's 18th birthday. She has officially applied to be an RCA, and tomorrow is little sister's 14th birthday. So yesterday, while they were having fun at the water park at Great Wolf, little man spent the day with me in the booster meeting. So everybody was thrilled to see him. I think he was really the highlight of the weekend for most of everybody there.
Oh, the babies are the greatest icebreaker in the world.
Are they, though? They were great. And it was awesome to see the first timers there. One particular that James and I have talked to many, many times. Carrier's first timer. She has a very problematic office, but she is going to let me share with the fact that, she's been with the post office for 10 years. She had attended one local meeting in the past, was not thrilled with how that meeting went, and didn't do anything else. All the older carriers in the office like, oh, union stuff's nothing but a party, and she came, and she is very, very glad that she came because she learned a lot. She got a lot of good information. She met a lot of great, awesome people, and the information that she got, she's able to take back to her office to share with the rest of the carriers and say, look, this was not a party. She was more tired at the end of Saturday than she was after working the day after Columbus Day. So,
Oh,
yes, guys,
yeah,
those that think it is just a party, it is not a party. And it is that easy to go and to get that information and make those connections.
yeah, same way with national, except for it's a week long non-party party.
Yes.
You know, between the resolutions and the appeals and everything else. Um, no, it's we save Thursday night for a party because that's after caucus. Everything's done, and it's in the hands of God after that. But the rest of the time, you're working your ass off,
Me,
and then you turn around on Fridays. Usually a day from hell if you got a lot of resolutions.
yeah. Meow said she's
I,
still processing what happened at National.
I will
Yeah.
I will say this. I will say this. The pictures that you see of the people quote unquote partying are us burning the energy that we got while sitting there working on business for hours on end.
It is
Mhm.
and most of the time that you see people outside of the banquet photos, you see people gathered around with drinks and stuff. We're actually still working. We're going through
Mhm.
resolutions, or it's the wind down so we can try and get a nap before we do it all over again the next day.
Yeah. Pads and pens going, notes made on the resolution sheets. Oh, all
Mhm.
that stuff. I mean, yeah, well, we had 383 this year.
Something like
Something like that.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, that was
it's
a ton.
yeah, and it's some people don't get through all of them. Some people do. It depends on how long you can keep yourself awake to do them because you have to go through it. You have to decipher the intent behind it because they don't give you anything but the be it resolved portion of the resolution. So you have to understand why they're bringing that forth, understand why it should be included or not before you make a decision whether you want to actually vote for it or object to it to get it to a floor vote where people can actually discuss it and things like that. And of course, objecting to things makes the days go longer. If it was easier, if everything just passed and it was done and over with, it'd make everybody's life easier. But that's not the whole point. The point is for us to actually sit there and discuss these issues and get together to a consensus of what we think that the craft should have. And
oh, and that first timer I was talking about says she is going to try to go to everything now.
yay,
So, I may end up with a new travel buddy.
you may.
I may. I offered rooming and travel, so let's do it. She's listening now
Yeah.
too, I see. So
And then and, and then James, after you go through all the resolutions, binding and non-binding, sit there and you shake your head and you go, "Well, Don's only taking 20 or 30 to the table."
Closer to 20.
Yeah.
but anything that we started this year wouldn't
This,
touch the contract negotiations to the next one.
yep. So, speaking of union events, we had our fall booster. And there's one very important thing that was said at our fall booster that I think everybody listening to this podcast should know. And this comes direct from the mouth of our state president, who stated he went at national convention and spoke to the legal team of the NRLCA on this. And any member of the NRLCA can join any meeting, function, convention across the nation if they so choose, as long as they are a member in good standing. As long as they're a member of this union, they can attend those meetings. So you're not beholden to just go to just your county meeting or your local meeting or your state convention or your state's booster. You could choose to go, say, to Michigan's fall booster or some other state's fall booster or spring booster, or maybe mid states, SWAC, SAC, any of those regional conferences, or even all the way up to the national convention. You can even attend if you are not a delegate to the national convention. And being that you are an NRLCA member, they cannot make you leave the room when business is being conducted, which they do for visitors and guests.
Now, just remember though, if you were to go to a local meeting or even a different state convention, and if it was like an annual local meeting, you as a not part of that local or part of that state, you would not have any voting rights. You could just go to observe and meet people and hear the information.
Sure
You
shit.
could ask somebody to have them suspend the rules if you really, really, really needed to speak, but that would require a vote on the floor for them to suspend the rules to allow you to speak.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of those caveats there.
Yeah.
And I believe that's a 2/3 majority too.
Correct.
Yes.
Suspending, making any changes to the rules or the Constitution requires a 2/3 vote.
Now,
I vote more than once.
I'm going to bring something up that got talked about, not at Booster, but was talked about. I'm not going to talk about exactly stuff that was. I can't talk about anything that was talked at the state board one, but this one I'm going to quote up, just kind of talk about a little bit, because there was something in here about a Zoom option would be helpful for those meetings, and somebody else brought up about that was brought up as well, that was elected as a local president and having Zoom. It was talked about a little bit, and there was some things brought out that it's just there's too many unknowns when it comes to having Zoom meetings. Let's put it for a local type thing, and as well as and some experiences of being another observer had brought up with being on a board for like a nonprofit or something of else of that nature. It's just it's not a good way to conduct business via Zoom if it was like a local meeting or something like that. But where it comes with the unknowns is you just don't know who is sitting in to the side with whoever's attending when it becomes for a Zoom meeting. So I mean something like that was discussed. I will just because it was brought up here. You kind of have to think about it. Yes, I mean for informational parts, and again, and things that were brought up would be you don't know if somebody's friends with management and management happens to be sitting in, or non-members, or something of somebody that it could get out to where it's not supposed to get out.
Or
So
somebody who goes to meetings just to give management information because they themselves want to become managers.
exactly. So
Or
the only reason I'm bringing this up because it was talked about, but is just because I did see it here. I get it. I understand it, and this was the same thing too. We understand a lot of times people are unable to attend their local regional meetings for various reasons, whether it's the distance, the timing, babysitter, family. I know for me, for my local meetings, I drive an hour. That's not always feasible for everybody, especially if you're working later or depending on the times. I know some locals do Sunday meetings because it's such a big area, and so they try to bring it in, but that's not always feasible either, especially if people have to travel. I'm going to give an example for the UP of Michigan, for example, is one local. So you've got hundreds of miles that people may have to go to a local meeting. I understand where Zoom would seem to be a good idea to try and get more people present, but there's just way too many underlying unknowns on it. I'm just putting that out there as, yes, it seems like a great idea. It'd be awesome to try and get more people involved to do that. But when you have to take a step back and think about the underlying unknowns.
Yep.
or it's like having a podcast and having the people, relay the information to the national board.
Yep. And if they're a member, no, you can't stop them from coming. And that's the one thing is if you got somebody from out of an area. Now, it's one thing if you're in a local and you're going to another local meeting in the state, they can get a local membership printout from the secretary. And we all know how quickly some of those things changed with revolving door of RCAs, regulars that may left or retired and didn't rejoin, but when it comes to if you're like, let's say I went to go visit Bill for a week or whatever, and he was having a local meeting, and he said, "Hey, come with me." But he could vet me, but at the same time, not everybody else may know that they're there. Get a hold of your state secretary if you don't have a current union membership card, and they can get those for you. I know a lot of people that were at National got new membership cards this year. So if you don't have one and you're interested in maybe going to a different meeting, get a hold of your state secretary, and they will make sure that they will get you a up to date membership card. That way, you at least have that to present if you do go to a meeting that is not of your locale.
Another good option right there was bring a magazine with your name on it.
Exactly.
If you have the
But-
current edition of the magazine, that can be used technically as proof that you are a member at the time the magazine came out.
So yeah, I mean,
Yes,
those are
it-
options. Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
in Pennsylvania, they only update the list twice a year when they send out our news check, national. And, you've got a lot of people changing in that 6-month period. So unless you have an updated list, and a lot of meetings are open too.
Mhm.
And I mean, they have people that can just walk in there, not even non-members. If it's an open meeting, non-members are allowed to participate.
Regional conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So
But yeah, I mean,
there,
there's a few things that came out this weekend that are good to know. You know.
so if you guys want to participate and have the means to be able to participate, you can participate. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to get out the mic. You don't have to ask questions. You don't have to put in resolutions. But there is so much information you can learn from every single one of these. Every single union event, there is information you can learn. Even myself and the podcast presenters here, every meeting we go to, we learn new things. We learn new information. It's a never ending thing. And especially in a job where things change constantly, especially procedures to do certain things, uh, equipment, stuff like that, changes, that gets addressed at these events. We get to talk about the scanner stuff. I mean, there's still questions going on about the activity scans for Rex. There's still questions on management's ability to tell us what we can and cannot put in their scanners. And you get that information there. And plus, it's really good, even if you've heard it before, to hear it again, to reinforce it. Because one of the best ways to ensure you get it right is to hear it over and over repetitively, learn it over and over repetitively, because it's better to go from your short term to your long term in that aspect, that you learn it over and over. And yes, the availability is the hardest part for everybody. Like myself, I would have loved to have gone to my state board meeting, but I could not afford to go. I had to work instead. So I ended up going after the board meeting, which was Friday. So sometimes sacrifices have to be made for that kind of stuff too, in order to protect yourself in the future.
I just hope I can get time off to go to more of the regional conferences next year.
Yeah.
I've been asked to go to Eastern States as well as SAC. I'm thinking about it. You know, I've been asked to accompany some other people to SAC, and I'm thinking about it. It's gonna have to fall financially, being January. Eastern States, I was thinking about it because that's my birthday falls in the midst of that, but at the same time, I'm thinking about it, and I'm going, that's the third weekend of March. The 1st of March, I'm already off. That's my tattoo expo weekend. Everybody knows I do that first weekend of March. The next weekend of March is our spring booster. And then the following weekend is Eastern States. And I'm going, oh man, I don't know. I'm still going to try, but I can't make any promises.
Where's Eastern States this year?
Maryland.
Come on down. You can room with me.
All right.
You don't have to sleep with me though. You just room with me.
Well, I have a
Yeah.
roommate too. I think my roomie from one of my roomies from National is the one that invited me. So, we're thinking about it. I'm just trying to think if I can, have enough, leave wise to, who knows, I may end up with some X days to burn. I always good with trying to earn an X day if I know I'm going to use up my annual. I can't afford to LWAP. I wish I
Me too.
could. But no,
Yeah.
it's yeah, I mean there was some good information. We had another postmaster come in and talk about edit books and mapping. And I even learned some stuff about the edit books that I didn't. I am going to put together an edit book presentation that I want to do on an episode in the future. And so I know that was definitely some good information there. As we all know, not everybody can do it, but in newer carriers and even designated 74s and 79s would definitely benefit from edit book stuff. As well, some Christmas overtime stuff came about. We'll definitely be touching on Christmas overtime as we get closer to it. For sure. I mean, there was some really good information.
Mhm.
I made some contacts with one of the other locals that is co-hosting. Where my local and their local is one region that we're going to be hosting State Convention 2026. And since I am chair of it out of my local, I got in touch with the people that are working out of the other local for it. So we've swapped out information and contact stuff. So good weekend all around for me, anyways.
Yeah, we also had a dermatologist talking about skin cancer, the sun, and proper ways to actually apply sunscreen versus the ways everybody else does it, just rub it on and hope it works
Yep.
and
And
things like
yes,
that as
DACA
well.
codes have changed. So
And
I do know in our most recent state magazine, I don't have that right in front of me. Like I said, I just got home. They did post the new DACA codes, so we'll get on top of that as well. There's a lot of good information that we have coming up. So definitely I need to spend some time to sit down and get everything together in proper presentation order. There is also, which I know it's been put out before, but the NRLCA does have a supplemental benefits. This includes term life insurance, short long-term disability insurance, dental vision hearing, accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity. I can't pronounce that word. Insurance.
Indemnity.
And yeah, thank you. Discount programs and stuff like that. And this stuff is also available for RCAs and PTFs. So, this is really good information. I've got a bunch of the handouts. I picked up a small stack so I can share with people, especially at my next local meeting, as well as in my office. But we'll definitely get some of this information because not everybody hears about this, especially when it comes to disability insurance, short-term, long-term stuff. We all know post office doesn't supply that. A lot of people have to go out and get something like Aflac or something like that if they know something's coming up. But there is that
Mhm.
stuff that's available, as well as dental vision and hearing, which is separate from benefits. So accident insurance for on and off job insurance, critical illness insurance.
mental health.
There's yeah. I mean, there is a lot of good stuff here that I definitely want to pass on to everybody.
Yeah.
I have a
And
really good,
Eligibility requirements real quick on here. Eligibility requirements for term life, short term, long term disability through Symetra, as well as critical illness, accident, hospital, indemnity insurance, or through Hartford. You must be an active member in good standing of the NRLCA to apply. You must be actively at work and able to perform all duties of your job, and you must work at least 20 hours per week to be eligible for term life, short-term, and long-term disability. That's the 3 requirements right there. So it's nrlca.benefithub.com for more information. I will scan this in and pass it along as well. So yeah, there's a QR code. I'll just post the QR code and make it easy. As well as our legislative rep for our state has these awesome little contact cards talking about the House bills, the HR 3721, which is the shipping the alcohol bill, the HR 5995, the buyback, HR 82, which is Social Security, HR 856 is the paid FMLA leave, HR 7629, protect our carriers. HR 7527, mail traffic. HR 866 is equal COLA. Those are the House bills. The Senate bills, the S597, Social Security. The S274, the paid FMLA leave. The S4356, protect our carriers. And the S5069, the ship alcohol. And the S3194, equal COLA. I'm going to scan this in and share it with everybody. It's just a really quick QR code. It pulls up the congress.gov, allows you to punch in your locale to pull up who your senators and your House reps are, to call them, email them, write a letter. I will get this information out to everybody.
I just posted it in our chats, the bills themselves, if you guys want to reference that as well, what we just talked about.
Yep.
I've also posted them in the United We Scan podcast group, as well as Rural Mail Carriers United group, so you guys can find them there as well.
Yes,
Just helps
and
putting
come
them together.
January, the House numbers will change because they have to be reintroduced again.
Yes, but if you get them to actually go on it now, they could actually move it up and hopefully get it done before the end of the year if you try.
Good luck.
Sorry, I had to be a comedian there for a minute.
Yes,
got it.
an explanation of advantages and disadvantages of an RCA working both an aux route and a regular route. In our office, we call the 6 and 0 and the 5 and 1. I,
Another one.
from experience, can talk about this as well.
Yep.
Definitely, I did an aux route 5 and 1. I'm a non-formula office, so I had the option of doing the 5 and 1. Formula offices are 6-day aux routes only. Now, as one, I can specifically speak on the 5 and 1. Our current aux carrier is a 6-day aux carrier, but with the 5 and 1, you have your primary route, you have your aux route. I ran my aux route 5 days a week, ran my primary on their relief day or any other time that they needed off. In most cases, depending on your office and your coverage, normally if you're running your primary, they will have somebody else run your aux route those days. In my instance, I ran both. And then, of course, for that 2 Christmases ago, when I was the only RCA in the office, I ran my aux route and everything else. But, yeah, I did live at the post office at that time. Set up a cot in the back. I lived close enough I didn't have to do that. And then 6-day aux routes. And if you're assigned in an aux route, you're not on the matrix. You have to remember that. But they can ask you to do anything after you run your aux route. They can ask you to assist or split a route or even go to another office that does not fall under a full route, a regular route. It is an aux route. So I will
they can assign you work up to 12 hours total with a half-hour lunch. So you have 11 and a half hours of work plus a half-hour lunch. And so if your aux route is 4 hours, they can assign you 7.5 hours of work, or a total of 12 straight hours is all they can do. Anything beyond that is grievable.
And yes, if you're on an aux route, you can still be in on that Sunday and holiday rotation. Just saying that doesn't exempt you.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go into more depth on it too in another episode. So, because I know we've got quite a bit to cover here with what's going on with our Cityside brothers and sisters. And I'm going to let you...
Hold up. I have a PSA here, okay?
Go ahead.
I have 21 messages this week about the political mail being individually endorsed. Do not do it under PM casing.
End of shift duties.
End of shift. Thank you. The majority of people responded that their PM, postmaster, or supervisor told them it's a PM casing duty. It is not. You are not casing it. You are endorsing it for their instructions. Get that time put on your evaluation, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, if you've got 40, 50 pieces, get the time.
The only 2 things that should be done under PM casing is PM casing, if it is allowed in your office for the next day, mail that comes in the afternoon for the next day, if your office is allowed to case it, that is done under PM casing. There's maybe only a handful that do that anymore. The main one is second trips. PM
Yep.
casing stops the clock for end of shift duties. Mapping, end of shift duties.
There's a
Edit
third one,
books.
Kristin.
What's the third one?
The third one is you are providing assistance on another route as a regular carrier
Yes.
because you get time and a half overtime under the voluntary work you do on another route on your standard work days. You do not volunteer to help on your relief day. You cannot get paid for volunteering on your relief day.
James, I'll just add it to your Monday, okay? Don't worry. Help me out here, James. Help me out, please.
Nope.
Come on.
So
Sorry.
yes, PM casing, assisting on something outside of your normal route as a regular on a non-relief day, and
Second
the
trips.
main one is second trips. Honestly, that's the main one. PM casing stops the clock for end of shift duties. Plain and simple. Anything else that
How do
you
you-
do on PM casing is going to be either the overtime rate for assisting on other routes, your second trip rate, your 3 minutes a mile, plus EMA if you're in a POV over 40 miles total for the day, and
And that's a load of shit there.
yeah, I agree. And then the PM casing of mail for the next day when it's allowed in your office, that goes towards your office time for. So that literally, guys.
We have to clarify that the mail for the next day is not the mail you bring back from the route. It is mail that was either left in the morning or mail that arrived in the afternoon and was there when you got back to the office. It is not mail you bring back from the street. That is covered under end of shift duties in the PO 603.
Yes,
All right, let's
anything
get to
that
the
you
juicy
bring back
stuff.
from the route,
we-
and I'm going to iterate. Anything you bring back from the route, your markups, your 3M mail, your any of that stuff is end of shift duties, including as bad weather is approaching and has approached in some areas with hurricanes and whatnot. If it's not safe, and I'm talking about with winter coming in, and you got to bring back 3/4 of that route and case it back up because it was not safe for you, fill out that 1767 if you have to. That, again, is end of shift duties, not PM casing. Okay, we're going to move on.
All
now.
right. Since we keep adding more and more to this.
I know. I've been gone for a couple weeks. I'm sorry, guys. Go ahead.
But that's the whole point of this podcast is for information. It's to help educate and get people looking at these things like the PO 603 end of shift duties and things like that. So that's why we're here. So these questions people ask in the chat that we're responding to while we're recording this is right in line with what we want to do on this podcast. And that is to help our carriers look where they need to get the answers from the actual documents on the union website or from the documents they can get from their postmaster, because your postmaster can get you a copy of the PO 603.
You're supposed to be one at every case.
Exactly.
Supposed to be.
Supposedly.
But
Haven't used that word in a little while.
You know, and who and where to go to find that assistance that you need for your particular office when it comes to regards of needing to reach out for the proper steward. You know,
It doesn't need a union rep.
Exactly. You know, you got an issue. Obviously, we can't do that for you, but we will definitely help you locate who your steward is.
Yeah, we tried that once, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
I just had to help a carrier figure out who their steward was when they did a changeover of the steward system on their part of their area. So I had to help them figure out who their steward was. It was really easy to do. I pointed them where to look at the website, put in their zip code, and they found it. And they were so thankful just to be able to find that at that point because they were distraught. And It's right there on the front homepage of the website on the computer, or under Departments, Steward Operations, Find My Steward on your mobile device on the app.
And they're the ones
So,
that can definitely help you the most.
yeah. So we've been trying to avoid talking about the carrier so far because we know exactly how this is going to go. And we are of the mindset that we're going to try and be as calm and civil about this as possible, bringing forth this information. It is unfortunately hot garbage, the best term to use. Not even worth the paper it's written on.
And I'm just going to say this real quick. This does not affect rural carriers directly at this time. We do not know when our contract will have when we'll have a tentative agreement. We do not know what will be in our tentative agreement. We do not know if it'll mirror anything that has come out with the tentative agreement with the city side. We don't know. So we can't say one way or another on anything that affects the rural craft because we don't know.
But history has shown us that when one union turns around and gets a bad contract, like two-tier pay systems, that even if it were to go to arbitration, there's a high possibility that the rest of the crafts could get close to something similar. So we always have to be of the mindset that we need to let our national officers be aware that we are watching and we want the best for our crafts.
But at the same time, this is not our tentative agreement. That's
No. So this is city carriers. This is your city brothers and sisters. So the rural carriers that are out there, this is what your city brothers and sisters are looking down the barrel of when they vote for their tentative agreement as a ratification vote. So it is a 42-month agreement from May 2023 to November 7th, 2026. All city letter carriers will receive a 1.3% increase per year. The first two will be paid retroactively because this contract will not be signed until probably the end of November, beginning of December after the vote is taken, if it's voted through. But it's a 1.3% per year pay increase. They will get a cost of living adjustment increased by 1 cent per hour for each 0.4 point increase of the consumer price index. So that would be, first one would be 978 retroactive, second one 353 retroactive, third one 978 retroactive.
and because of the two-tier pay system, it is prorated.
It will be prorated like the two-tier pay system, and the two-tier system is not going away. They will be removing steps AA, A, and B from Table 2, moving all carriers on those steps up to Step C, with the Step C carriers remaining, as well as the rest above remaining at their current steps. Their annual wage in Step P, top step, on 1 and 2 shall be increased by $1,000 within 180 days of ratification, in addition to the general wage and COLAs. They're getting an extra $1,000 added on at Step P, and then all Table 1.
Step P equals our Step 12.
Or
Step
step
12, Step
15.
15.
Right.
Yeah.
In case
And
you
then,
didn't know the coding on there.
yes. And then Step P, which is the top step, will be administratively slotted into Step P of Table 2 immediately. Table 1 carriers in steps O and below will be, upon reaching Step P, administratively slotted into Step P of Table 2. It's purely administrative, will not affect wages in any way, which means they are eliminating Table 1 as the carriers reach the top step. So technically, this contract is starting to eliminate the 2 tables, but it's literally keeping Table 2 while pushing everybody on Table 1 to Table 2 when they hit the top step. CCAs will receive an additional 1% increase on top of the current 1.3 in this contract. So they will receive a 2.3% increase each year and an additional 50 cents an hour. Carriers will receive a uniform allowance increment of $536 in May 2025, plus an additional $125 for a newly eligible carrier. CCA caps will remain the same. However, the number allowed in each district will be based on the career city letter carrier complement. So the CCA position is remaining. Conversion to career status will remain. Holiday carrier assistant remains. Multi-installation carrier technician assignments remain. No changes to the cost. The health insurance will remain at 72% and will be capped at 75% of any given plan's premium. And tentative agreement maintains Postal Service's biweekly contributions of 75% of the premiums for self plus only, self plus one, or self plus family for city carrier assistance. Overtime provisions have been modified. A new section 4.g has been created, which guarantees pay at the rate of 2 1/2 times the base hourly straight time rate for all letter carriers for any work beyond 12 hours in a day and 60 hours in a service week. Previously, agreements would have to be filed for carriers to be provided the additional pay for violations of the 1260 work hour limitations. This will no longer be necessary, as the pay rate will now be automatically applied when these work hour limits are exceeded. So, city carriers, you violate the FLSA by working over 1260, you just get 2 1/2 times pay instead of being able to go home. Overtime assignments remain the same. Layoff protection remains the same. Prohibitions of subcontracting remains. MOU on the City Delivery and Workplace Improvement Task Force. New Employee Experience Retention and Mentoring Program. Joint Workplace and Improvement Process remains.
Hold on. Now, those last 3 things that you have stated, again, these are task force. These are like the QWELI. This is like everything else in the past. They put together these task force, and they don't do jack shit. I mean, the last one is the Joint Workforce Improvement Process for the Environment and Culture in the Post Office. How many times have we heard this? And how many times has it been
work
violated?
environment
Every day. Every damn day. What a waste. And you know, if you look at this, these are task force that have to meet quarterly. This is just something for the business agents, for the city carriers that have to attend, say that, you know, they're putting forth the effort of improving these working conditions. And there's not a person listening right now or will be listening to the course of the week and say there's any improvement that's been made in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
This is just blowing smoke up the proverbial pipe.
Here, it gets even worse. Alternate route evaluation and adjustment process, MOU is continued, which talking about using the scanners for route adjustments, for route measurements and things like that, as well as stationary events. People are getting harassed for that. And the new MOU, fixed office time in a joint route evaluation and adjustment environment. The new I'm going to read this one because this is your 1 hour office time. This new MOU recognizes the need to modify methods for determining fixed office time to fit office activities in the current work environment, aka 1 hour office times, by recording most office activities other than casing mail and pulling down mail as either recurring or non-recurring. Activities previously recorded under lines 8, 13 through 13 and 15 would now be recorded under line 21. When determining minimum line item values in the modified method, the MLU would prohibit such values from being less than indicated values for the following line items. 14, accountables, 2 minutes. Vehicle inspection, 3 minutes. Personal needs, bathroom, coffee, 5 minutes. Office work not covered, 10 minutes. So your 43-minute office time starting standard, city carriers usually get 43 minutes as a base before they even start touching mail, is now 15, 18, 20 minutes. So they just cut it more than half. There's your hour office time. Other provisions. Go ahead. Yeah, the hour office time.
They went on to specify specifically that the SDCs, the automation, is going to help you reduce your office time. If you're in an SDC, like I was, it's a 5-minute walk to the bathroom, and then you do your business in a 5-minute walk back. It takes you 3 minutes just walk to the doors, check your vehicle, let alone go out to your vehicle. And in my case, our city carriers are in the back 40. So they'll be able to walk out to the door, look and see if their truck's there, and then walk back to their case. And they still won't be able to do it within that, 3-minute time.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. And they're basing it on the fact that the SD and Cs are more automated. No, they're not more automated. You're still getting political mail in your damn hamper with your parcels. You're still getting late mail. I did the question the other day from a carrier was, do I have to do a second trip for political mail that they threw after we left for the? No, that's not what it's specified. If you're given a direct order, get it in writing, round dated, get it signed, then grieve it. That's not what second trips were designed for.
Yeah.
And people, if you don't know, question it, challenge it. Just don't take it like sheep because they said so.
And I can
put
tell
it in
you,
writing.
a proper vehicle inspection will take more than the 1 minute we get or the 3 minutes that they're getting. A proper inspection to make sure a vehicle is roadworthy, the size of the LV, will take a minimum of 6 minutes. And that's not even popping the hood and checking the oil and the other things that I used to have to do as a truck driver to make sure my vehicle was safe to operate on the road. Those ones take 15 minutes on a semi-truck minimum. And that's if you're just looking at everything and not actually touching anything and making sure it's actually correct.
And remember, there are 2 time standards for checking your truck. The first is your walking distance. And then from your door, you get to walk around and examine the vehicle and check the workings of the lights, horns, wipers, and everything else. That's an additional time.
Start, run, the parking brake works.
Light checks, yep.
Brakes work, throttle works, horn works, headlights, high beams, turn signals, flashers, brake lights, reverse lights. Check all your tires for proper tread depth, air pressure. Check your underside for oil leaks. Make sure everything is properly mounted and secured underneath the vehicle, including your exhaust, your drive shaft, your transmission, your differential, etc. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to inspect on a vehicle to make sure it's roadworthy. But then again, look at what we're driving.
The most important thing, does it have gas?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. All right. Other contractual provisions they added, Article 2.1. The language will be changed to include pregnancy as a protected class and to replace the term handicapped employees with individuals with disabilities.
All right, that one's
that's not bad. The pregnancy is a very important one because I do know that a lot of female carriers get harassed when they are pregnant by management, especially. And it's not fair because it's a natural thing. Article
James,
8.
I got harassed for helping a pregnant carrier, and somebody said that's not your job duty. I said, I know, it's the basics of human, compassion.
Decency. It's human decency.
It's just because you come to work doesn't mean you have to stop being a human being.
Yeah, like at my office, we have a clerk that's like 5'2", maybe 5'4". I'm not sure exactly her height because I'm 6'3". And if she goes, hey, can you come grab these Amazon parcels off the top so I don't pull them off onto my head? I go over there and I help her because guess what? Somebody's got to help.
Work together?
We actually work together because we're all in this together. Article 8, 8.3. All part-time, flexible, and city carrier assistant employees will be guaranteed a minimum of one non-scheduled day each service week, except during the penalty overtime exclusion period. Management will notify PTF and CCA employees of their assigned NS day by the Wednesday preceding the service week. So now the relief carriers get a non-scheduled day just like regular carriers.
Okay, I'm not against that either.
I'm not against that, but with the lack of people that we have, how often are they going to violate that?
Yeah, exactly.
Article 10, monetization of annual leave. This MOU provides career employees the opportunity, now notice keyword opportunity, to sell back up to 40 hours of annual leave prior to the beginning of the leave year if they are at the carryover maximum and they have used fewer than 75 sick leave hours in the year immediately preceding the year for which the leave is being exchanged. Shall I translate that?
Yes.
Please.
Monetization of annual leave. This new MOU gives management the ability to keep you from using your annual leave, forcing you to sell it back to management to get money because management will not let you take leave. Does that sound a little bit better?
Yeah.
I think that's the proper translation.
I think that simplifies it. Basically, they're not letting you pile it up so that, you can put the screws to them at the end of your career.
That, or you can't use them ever again.
Yeah.
You can't use leave. You have to keep working. You have to still continue to be on the work floor instead of actually taking one of the benefits that you're supposed to get as a carrier in the company. CCA advanced annual leave. Upon completion of an initial 360-day appointment as a city carrier assistant and immediately upon reappointment to any subsequent appointments, CCAs will be advanced 40 hours of annual leave. Upon implementation, CCAs will receive annual leave prorated to the end of their 360-day term. So it's basically just like the RCAs earning leave on our end.
Only it's going to be advanced to them like us regulars are
advanced. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit better than our leave for RCAs on that aspect. PTF advanced annual leave is the same thing, prorated at the end of the leave year for the first year of the PTF and annually thereafter, unless the employee converts to full-time status. Bereavement leave, city carriers up to 3 work days of leave to make arrangements necessitated by death of a family member or attend the funeral of a family member. Grandchildren will be added to the existing list of defined family members. New MOU for time limitations concerning bone marrow, stem cell, blood platelet, and organ donations. This new MOU defines the amount of administrative leave granted and time limitations applicable to bone marrow, stem cell, blood platelet, and organ donations for career employees. Holidays observed, added Juneteenth. Holiday part-time employee pay calculation for the part-time flexible employees to reflect the addition of the Juneteenth holiday. Since PTS do not receive holiday pay per se, Article 11.7 provides that the holiday pay regular carriers receive is built into the regular hourly rate for PTS. New calculation provides that PTS will be compensated for the 11 holidays by basing the employee's regular straight-time hourly rate on the employee's annual rate divided by 1,992 hours. It's already been in effect since 2022. Contractual change simply updates the language. Article 12 will be amended to remove any sections of language which do not apply to the city letter carrier craft. Under Article 12.2b, language, supervisors who return to the city letter carrier craft will begin a new period of seniority unless they return within 2 years. The modified language would change this to 1 year. So they're saying if you're a supervisor for a year or more and you want to go back to the city carrier craft, your seniority will be at the bottom of the list. You'll be the junior carrier in the office. I like that one. 12.5C8. which contains provisions regarding the involuntary reassignment of PTF employees over quota, will be deleted. Article 14, the new section established joint labor management safety committees at the district level for each of the 50 USPS districts. These district safety committees will consist of at least 2 members from each party and will meet quarterly. District safety committees are responsible for assisting in implementing district-wide safety initiatives, facilitating communications between area and local safety committees, and assisting local committees. The establishment of district joint labor management safety committees follows a long-standing pilot test in certain USPS districts under MOU-RE District Safety Committees pilot program. This MOU will be removed from the national agreement since these committees will now be established nationwide in Article 14. Another committee that's not going to be listened to.
What did you say? I wasn't listening.
That's exactly what management does to those committees. All right, so this is why you're seeing air-conditioned vehicles being portrayed in the news on this. But you have to listen to the language. This new MOU requires the Postal Service to make every effort to acquire vehicles equipped with air conditioning for use by city letter carrier craft employees. If USPS plans to acquire vehicles without air conditioning due to the climate in a particular geographic location or other factors, the issue must be discussed with the NALC. Additionally, USPS must continue to follow repair and maintenance procedures to ensure that any necessary maintenance or repairs to air conditioning systems are completed in a timely manner. Inspection of vehicle air conditioning systems will be included in preventative maintenance inspections as well. Just catch the wording in that.
How does that help a carrier who's on a complete walkout route?
Exactly. But also to make every effort. That's as simple. It's a simple language that gives management an out to say, we tried, we couldn't find any. You're going to have to drive these LOVs another 20 years because we can't find any vehicles that will last more than 2 years. Look at what happened to the Mercedes mattresses. They're already failing and falling apart and being replaced by LLVs all over the place. Article 15, dispute resolution process testing. This MOU found beginning on page 210 of the 19 to 23 agreement has been modified to add the requirement for the task force to begin meeting no later than 90 days after ratification and to meet regularly no less than once a quarter. Then dispute resolution process, step B team procedures. The MOU replaces MOU-RE Article 15 dispute resolution process and the MOU-RE Article 15 dispute resolution procedure task force, and creates a new MOU outlining the guidelines and defining responsibilities for the Step B teams and the joint parties who oversee them. This new MOU is designed to streamline and improve the Step B process to facilitate more rapid resolution of grievances. So just those two alone, dispute resolution process systems that they're doing, basically they want to make resolutions of disputes quicker. And there's another one after this, but I wanted to talk about that really quick. They're basically changing the rules for the Step B teams and the dispute resolution process. So that is something that really needs to be looked at even deeper by city carriers, because we already know from 8 arbitration that they have issues with not having a consensus across the country when it comes to resolution to disputes.
And you
right?
say city side RCAM?
Yeah, city side JCAM, yeah.
Is.
Yeah, JCAM.
Yep.
The JCAM, yeah. And then establish a task force at the national level to jointly explore and work toward the development and implementation of an electronic grievance system for use by the parties. Parties will explore the potential functionality of the electronic grievance system, including but not limited to electronic grievance forms for all steps, push notifications when grievances are appealed to the next step, timestamps to record dates and times of actions taken, responding to information requests, and managing and storing documents. I like that one. Instead of having to wait for it to go from, say, if it's going to national, going from, we'll go Florida, it ends up running through Palmetto, getting stuck there for 2 weeks before it finally makes its way to national office. You know, it can be electronically sent and be there in 10 seconds. I still would want the paper copies, though.
The only problem with that is if they can go in there and manipulate it like they do the Rex program. So, you know.
Yeah, and I would say that it would have to be something that both sides have verifications on. You know,
Yeah.
like when I use Google Docs for pretty much all my paperwork that I do. That records every single basically keystroke that goes into that document and actually gives it the signature of the person doing the editing. So if there was a process for that, that would be the way that you would want to do that to make sure that the stuff's not getting edited like that.
Yeah, we trust them.
Yeah. All right. And then this one, Article 16, 16.7 Emergency Procedure. So this is your EP, Emergency Placement. Amended to allow carriers placed in an off-duty status the right to use accrued annual leave to offset the non-pay period. So if management decides to put you in emergency placement, whether it is for a just reason or not, you have the choice to use your annual leave to pay out until you run out of annual leave while you're disputing the emergency placement. But if you win the grievance on the emergency placement, you're supposedly going to get back pay all the way back to when you were emergency placed. I don't see a provision here saying that if annual leave was used, it is recredited if you win the grievance.
Right.
Nope, you just burned up your annual leave.
Yeah, and then they'll probably send you a letter of demand for the pay that they gave you while you were on EP.
And that's after they already monetized your hours after you stayed under 75 sick hours and you had more than 40 days, available.
Yeah. Labor Management Committee meetings amended to add a requirement for the local parties to meet at least twice a year to discuss labor management issues. 17.7 dues checkoff change to reflect that NALC will be taking over the dues processing for our members. Historically, the Postal Service has been responsible for allocating the dues to the local branches via postal finance numbers, which at times has created allocation errors. This contractual change will allow the NALC to control the dues allocation process and verify the distribution of funds to branches and state associations is properly completed. Additionally, the Postal Service will make voluntary allotment deductions authorized by carriers and provided by the union.
Which is something NRLCA already does, though.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Why would the Postal Service have to pay out to multiple different union offices? To pay to the NALC, and by the Constitution of the NALC, it should be distributed the way that it's written in their constitutions.
Which raises a question for me because of the fact that I live in a county where they don't, deduct my county tax, but yet they can do this for the city carriers. Come on now, I mean, you're talking about thousands of units that they're dispersing funds to.
Yeah.
Why do I get stuck at the end of the year paying my 1% county tax every year?
County and some areas I have to pay local.
Locals too, yeah.
City tax. Anyway.
Well, I live in a mobile home, so they don't tax us.
All right. Article 23: Rights of union officials to enter postal installations. This new MOU affirms that upon reasonable notice to the Postal Service, authorized representatives of the union shall be permitted to enter postal installations for the purpose of performing and engaging in official union duties and business related to the collective bargaining agreement. This MOU clarifies that this right applies to elected or appointed national, area, local officers and representatives, regardless of whether they are active USPS employees or retired. The MOU requires the Postal Service to provide officers and or NALC representatives who are in a full-time leave without pay status or retired a USPS identification badge to enter postal facilities within their respective locals. So this is basically just saying they have the right to enter these facilities upon reasonable notice. We have that provision in our contract as well. They have a list of continued MOUs that kept going. However, the following MOUs have been removed: FSS implementation, FSS work methods, District Safety Committee's pilot program, basically the ones we talked about before. So here's the general wage increases and projected COLAs. Now remember, this goes back to when the contract expired. So you have to remember the wage increase that you're going to get is already listed in the back pay up to the new table implementation that they have on here, which includes 6 wage increases, 4 cost of living adjustments, and 2 general increases.
Oh, that's some
So,
nice back pay, but at the same time,
it's a nice back pay, but when you go at the beginning of the contract for a table 2 city carrier on step C, they start at $50,153. Right now, with the new implementation, $53,407. City carrier assistance at current prices on BB table, on the BB segment, will be $20.71, and AA will be $21.21.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So you have to remember, this is the contract that these city carriers are going for. And as we have seen in the past, what happens in one can happen to the rest. And I'm telling you right now, this is one of the worst contracts I have seen for a current union with a new contract. Boeing just got a 35% increase. The longshoremen, 65% increase. UAW, we talked about that. And yet, 1.3% and $1,000 for the city carriers. To my fellow brothers and sisters of the city craft, I'm sorry that this has come out.
Now, James, did I miss it? Did you bring up the extension of the non-penalty time from 4 to 6 weeks?
I think I missed that.
Okay.
Where was that?
And that one was the ire of the city carriers that were talking to me, because of the fact we get 3 weeks of overtime, okay, which is a week and a half of a pay period, or 1.5 pay periods, and they're getting 2 full pay periods before this contract. You may sit there and say, "Oh my God, they're getting 6 weeks." No, ladies and gentlemen, they're getting robbed of V time for 2 additional weeks per year.
Yep.
Because after that 4-week period's over, they can go back into the penalty payments. That's now being removed from them.
Yep.
And you want to talk about lighting a fire. Oh, Lord. This is a shitstorm that's going to hit with hurricane force. And they're going to, like James said before, they're going to vote this down in record numbers.
Yeah, this is in this day and age of union strong bargaining agreements, of unions who are taking people to task for this money, taking people to task for wages they deserve to be able to afford what they need these days. And I found it wasn't listed anywhere specifically in here that I could find by just scrolling through, but it is listed under the holiday carrier assistant, and it will be the proposed modification will extend from 4 weeks to 6 weeks to cover the week of and after Thanksgiving, and provide a 2-week window prior to employment solely for the purpose of training. So that's in there as well. But yes, this is hot garbage, and the raise that the carriers are getting on an hourly basis, CCAs, 50 cents, that's less than a postage stamp per hour.
And it took their president 20 months to get to this deal. And what really slapped me in the face was there's one comment in regards to office time being defined by automation and projecting the goals of delivering for America. I'm sitting there just saying, you have to get your lips off the Joy's ass. You really do. Because this smacks of collaboration with the post office.
You've heard it from Maston at National Convention. The Delivering for America plan is the greatest thing that's come from a postmaster general. And now you hear it from the city carriers president that Delivering for America is the best thing since sliced bread. These guys need to get their eyes opened to what's going on, and they don't realize it. They feel like a district manager who can tell the local postmasters to turn the AC off to force carriers out. They feel that protected. They feel so protected that they can harass and belittle people and get away with it. Because they'll get a slap on the hand and move to another office where people may not file grievances on them. It's time for our crafts to wake up. Time for our crafts to step up. It's time for our brothers and sisters of the rural craft to talk with their city carrier brothers and sisters about this contract and how important it is that they actually use their voice in this vote. Now, I know some people work in an all rural office, but there are a lot of rural carriers that work in a combined office or some that live on a city carrier route. Take a moment and stop and talk to them if you're on your day off and they're working. This one is one that the city carriers have to learn, understand, and vote on. We need to stand with our brothers and sisters on the city side with this one.
Difference to Kristin's comments regarding this contract doesn't reflect what we're going to get. I will state that for years, our contracts have almost been locked hand in hand with the city contracts. Same way that Table 2 was initiated, Table 2 and 4 was initiated. The same way, all the new MOUs are issued. If we see this, the National Rural Letter Carriers Association, it'll be another shitstorm for us. If we don't see at least a 5% increase for all 3 years, and that will take a miracle. God help the post office.
On
God
top
help
of
the union.
on top of an initial 20 to 25% increase in the pay right off the bat. The base pay needs to be 25% higher, almost 30% for Table 2 carriers. Because with this contract right here that I'm looking at, the pay that's on there, why on earth would anybody want to work for that pay? Why on earth would anybody want to come to a company where management harasses you day in and day out? You drive 30-plus-year-old vehicles
Every type of weather.
for less pay than some people are getting at fast food or at a Walmart warehouse. Now, there are carriers out there that are making bank, especially with the penalty overtime, at the cost of their own home lives, at the cost of their own sanity.
At the cost of their marriages.
The marriages, their kids growing up. Their kids growing up. I mean, Kristin, you have a brand new grandbaby. How would you feel working 14 hours a day and not having any time to spend with that grandbaby?
It was hard enough to be gone for the first 2 weeks of his life when I went to National.
Yeah, you're a horrible grandmother.
What was that, Bill?
So that's.
I said you're a horrible grandmother.
Yeah, spending 2 weeks away. How could you?
And I subjected him to his first booster meeting
Booster,
on
yeah.
the weekend
Yeah.
of his 2 months, being 2 months old. Yeah.
God, I'm telling you. I'm gonna start calling you Mama.
There was a DR during their talk that was talking about the shortages. I happened to be standing in back because another carrier friend of mine was holding him, and she was like, and she points to the back and she's like, and we have to grow our own RCAs.
Yeah. And I mean, you're talking about we're already having a hard time hiring people. Not to mention the wait time to actually get hired on in the first place. But you present them with $21.14. Are they really going to work here for $21.14 and wait 4 months to be put in their position or wait 3 months for an academy or things like that? No. They're going to go off and they're going to go work at McDonald's for $19 an hour where they could get paid the next day.
Free French fries for life.
Because people right now, most often, are in a survival mode because money is tight. We have people that are 35, 40 years old having to pick up roommates because the cost of living has gotten so high they can no longer afford their place to live by themselves.
Hey, I was looking at rental rates in my area, and I was like, "There's no way in hell I'd be able to afford to live on my own." There's no way.
Rental rates in my area are higher than my home mortgage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even have a mortgage anymore. The house is paid off. But I'm looking at what I have for my car payment, my car insurance, and just those are my two biggest bills and cell phone paper. But And then you're looking at going tacking onto it, and some of the rental rates were more than what I bring home every 2 weeks. One single
So
check wouldn't even cover rent.
eh, somebody on one of the from 8 Arbitration podcasts or on the Reddit made a great post on this too. You have to think about this is also going to cost us carriers overall too, with that shortened office time that they just put in there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They said 13 minutes doesn't seem like much, right? Who cares about less than a quarter of an hour? But every 37 routes that lose 13 minutes means one less route, one less regular, one less brother or sister. Every 5 lost routes means one less T6 position and another lost brother or sister. If there are 200,000 routes, then this agreement causes us to eventually lose 6,500 carrier jobs. Who bargains away jobs from their fellow union members? And then another carrier brought up a really, really great point. Let's not forget that health insurance premiums are also going to be going up from 12 to as much as even 25% for fiscal year 2025. So that generous 1.3% increase isn't even going to cover the upcoming increases to health insurance premiums. The Postal Service Health Benefit System, all our health insurance premiums are going up. It doesn't matter which premium you have, it's going up.
And your deductibles and your co-pays and everything else. So,
Yes.
whether you're at 75% or 72%, it doesn't matter that amount of contribution because of the fact that your end costs will still go up.
Well,
So
and looking at the insurance rates, and I am on the rural carrier benefit plan, and I'm on Self Plus Family. I do have my 2 girls covered it, and it was awesome with covering everything for Ruby's pregnancy and delivery, and I can't complain. But I'm going up from 234 to 273 from
Mhm.
the first of the year.
A pay
And
period.
yeah,
a pay period, yeah. I mean that
Yes.
$40, that's a tank of gas. That's
yeah,
that's half of my internet bill. That's that is a little bit.
that's
I
my
just
cell
steal the
phone bill.
Wi-Fi from my neighbor. That's all.
Yeah, that's my cell phone bill.
Yeah, that doesn't even. I've got me and Ruby unlimited plus 2 smartwatches and paying for the expensive phones I got 2 years ago. But yeah, no,
Oh, I
it's
was just the plan that I have. I wasn't talking about the phone or the watch or any of that stuff. Just the plan.
still won't touch mine. But yeah, no, it's yeah, I get things go up, and I get that you know premiums in general, insurance premiums went up, and the Postal Service only covers 72%. So the difference of that last 28% is what's passed on to the carriers. That 28% of it. So I get it. Ours are going to go up a little bit. But yeah, it's I mean in seeing now that at the beginning of the year as we're switching to the postal health benefits as opposed to being under the federal health benefits, seeing how big of a jump that the federal employees are taking, I'm kind of happy. Ours are yeah, it jumped a little bit, but nothing like what they are.
Oh, just wait. Now that we're separated, they can do what they want with it. Yeah, and our pay isn't going to increase nowhere near the cost of living, even with the cost of living adjustments, especially for anybody not on table one and not the top step of table two.
Correct. And I don't believe
We
there's
can,
anybody on the top step of table two. Anyway.
no, not yet.
Nope.
Um, I believe that'll be if anybody went on. No, there wouldn't be unless they were a year in. It would still be 3 years
Man,
before they reach it.
Mhm. Yep. So yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
that's
it's given I'm not going to say that ours is going to follow or not follow because we don't have a tentative agreement yet. That's where I'm coming back. Yes, I know throughout history they have pretty closely mirrored one another. So yes, that is something to think about. But at the same time, we don't know what ours is going.
yeah, and don't forget, there's no transparency, and it's secret negotiations. There is no, oh, we're starting with this, and we're getting that. or management brought this, and we brought that, but we didn't agree on that, so we're moving on to something else. There's none of that. It is all, we're negotiating. We're still negotiating. We're still negotiating. That's the only answer you get from the national board. And what's surprising is they said, oh, it's 99% done. At least that was the rumor at national convention. So if it was 99% done, why the hell wasn't it put out before the NALC?
Well, because he didn't want to interrupt them because they were out longer. Remember?
Yeah.
Being considerate of our city carrier brothers and sisters.
He was probably being considerate because
Does that
he
bother
didn't want to be the
anybody?
one. He probably didn't want to be the one that presented something like this.
Yeah, but does it bother anybody? He says sisters and brothers when everybody else in the world says brothers and sisters. Bothers me.
I have no problem with that. I have no
It
problem. At
bothers
least
me.
he's recognizing it. At least he's recognizing it now.
Well, I think he's just doing because of percentage of women versus men in the rural craft. That's sexist. That's just my opinion.
See, I would have put it in alphabetical order personally.
Yeah. and just to be controversial, that even though I'm not, okay, you have to realize that we're a government agency. We're a constitutionally endowed public service. We're not a business. We're not technically a business. So that's why, we're getting these menial or minuscule raises, being offered to our city carriers because of the fact that we're not technically a business. But, if we don't run it like a business, ladies and gentlemen, the hell are you going to get anything better than what they're offering?
And don't forget, the Biden-Harris administration announced a proposed rule that would increase pay for thousands of blue-collar federal workers, proposal would advance parity between federal wage system and general schedule workers, providing 12% average pay raise for approximately 14,500 blue-collar workers,
Much?
such
12%?
as hardworking carpenters, mechanics, etc.
12%.
12% for them.
Okay. But we're
One
getting more
point-
because we're getting 1.3.
1.3 for the city letter carriers, but 12% for other blue-collar federal employees. Yeah.
I know.
So
It's disheartening.
I'm going to take a poll here. Kristin, what would you vote if you were a city letter carrier?
If I was a city letter carrier, I would have to vote no.
Bill?
Oh, hell no.
Well,
that up.
Renfro does talk about this being historic and it being one of the best contracts he's ever negotiated, and how it's going to be a benefit to the city craft and it's going to help the Delivering for America plan, and it's going to be historic.
But let me
It's going to be historic. It's going to be historic in the number of ballots returned and the number of no votes returned by city letter carriers. I'm voting no on this if I was a city letter carrier.
But let's just put this out there, a little disclaimer. We are not city letter carriers, and every city letter carrier that gets a ballot is allowed to vote however they wish to vote.
They're going to vote no.
But I'm also going to put this out there. I am not a lawyer, and this is not legal advice. Consult an attorney in your local area for legal advice. But if there are any members of the NALC, whether they are dues paying or not dues paying, that attempts to sway or coerce you to vote a specific way, you need to report them to the National Labor Relations Board immediately, because attempting to coerce or sway a vote is election tampering, and any person caught doing that could face jail time.
Can I still go to the gun range on Wednesdays?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank
you. Make your own educated decision on this contract ratification, because this is very important. This is going to cover you until the end of November of 2026, just after your next national convention. So think all long and hard about it before you put your pen to paper. And if you're a rural carrier, talk with your fellow brothers and sisters of the city craft about it. Let them bounce it off of you. Let's have a full discussion on it.
And at the same time, and this goes for everybody, when you receive a tentative agreement in the mail, read it. Go through the changes. Look at what the pros and cons are. Weigh them out for the entire craft, not just yourself personally. I know a lot of people in the past have like, oh, we're getting a raise, I'm voting yes. But did you continue to see what else was changed? Read your tentative agreement. Go through them. Take the time. Even if it's your bathroom reading material, read it. Don't take your cell phone in there. Take your tentative agreement. Something to look at and read. If that's a few minutes that you can get away from your family to read it, then that's what you do. Yes, there is a no layoff clause because that is a federal law. Or not, excuse me, the no layoff is not federal law, the no strike is. And that kind of goes hand in hand, but I do believe their no layoff clause did stay intact. Am I correct?
Well, how can you have no strike when they say that they can do work stoppages?
Well, I was actually about to talk about that.
All right. Go ahead. I'm getting tired, but go for
So,
it.
for anybody in the city letter carrier craft that is scared to vote no because of what may happen, there is a responsibility of them to go back and negotiate again for another 15 days. Maximum 15 days. And then they have to take it to arbitration if they cannot come to an agreement in those 15 days. If they come to an agreement in those 15 days, then they would send out another ratification. It would, of course, extend the time on the contract, blah, 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 blah. But if you don't like what's in it and you vote no, know that there is still a procedure. And then at the end, if they cannot come to an agreement, then it is up to the president and the executive council to turn around and decide whether they want to continue negotiating, go to arbitration, do a work stoppage until a tentative agreement is reached, or other avenue. Now, granted, the work stoppage, a lot of people would consider that a strike, but this is not considered a strike on the basis that because there is no contract covering the carriers, although the current contract continues in perpetuity until a new contract is reached, a work stoppage is a way to force management to finally negotiate a good contract while not calling it a strike.
Henceforth, the power of the union.
So,
Did anybody read
I
the
did.
CLC statement?
I did receive the statement from James Henry on it. There is a CLC currently working on a statement as well for it. The Concerned Letter Carriers is working on a statement for it.
They did have a statement out.
Yeah, a small statement. But this is from James Henry. Brothers and sisters, let me start by saying I too share in your anguish, disappointment, frustration, and disdain for the tentative agreement that was presented to the membership for ratification. I'm of belief that the tentative agreement is woefully short of expectations by the membership and exceedingly deficient of what our letter carriers deserve. Moreover, it's devoid of the respect our letter carriers have earned through our devotion, dedication, and hard work through any and all circumstances. I, for one, will be voting no on the tentative agreement and encourage each and every one of you to do the same and ask your fellow carriers to vote no as well. This tentative agreement represents an epic failure in leadership and recognition of that letter carriers who deserve to be industry leaders in wages, benefits, and working conditions by our president. It is simply not enough to do as well as other sector workers. We deserve and demand better because we are the best. After 20 months of negotiations, a tentative agreement should have been presented that reflects the time that carriers have waited for allegedly a historic contract. It is historic in the sense that there has never been such a letdown of the carriers and depicting being tone deaf to the plight and financial burdens carriers now endure. After my 36 years of service and being the NALC vice president, I have an understanding of what is expected of the NALC leadership, and what we're getting now does not meet the basic standards of ensuring the interests of our letter carriers come first. Vote no. I am in solidarity. Do you want to read the CLC one, Kristin?
Yeah, I'll read that real quick. It just says yesterday the NALC Executive Council met and discussed the tentative agreement. For the first time in decades, the national president of the NALC did not seek nor receive the Executive Council's recommendation on a tentative agreement.
Boy, sounds like a one-man show when that happened, huh?
Yeah.
My neighbor changed the password on his Wi-Fi. I got kicked off.
It is supposed to be part of the process, Mr. Johnson. That's why they made that statement. So basically, what they're basically saying is Mr. Renfro turned around, got this tentative agreement, and put it out in front of everybody without doing the due diligence that is required of the process. As one of our listeners just said, he went rogue.
Mm-hmm.
He made a unilateral decision. I think that's the best way to put it.
Well, and this is just reflective of his actions at his recent convention too. You know, he's the Mussolini of city carriers.
I think that because of the way that they voted to support the executive council in dismissing most of his charges, that he felt that he was untouchable. And so he could do something like this without repercussions. But we're not city letter carriers. That is for their union and their membership to decide. Yes, the guy on the opposite side of the table from the NALC was Doug Tolino, and he's making almost $850,000 a year.
He is the deputy Smith.
Yes.
I'll reserve my comments that I don't want recorded and edited.
On that note, is it time to wind down now?
I think before we get even more upset about this, because we know that this kind of stuff is something that is a possibility for the rural letter carriers, as well as our brothers and sisters in the clerk craft, the APWU, as well as our brothers and sisters in the mail handlers union. Because when one of this happens, sometimes we all know the statement, it rolls downhill.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and wind this down for this evening.
Yes, please.
All
So I can free verse.
Yeah, and I need to get some rest because I heard tomorrow is just going to be atrocious. So I actually need to get up and actually clock in at start time of 7:30 instead of rolling in at 8:10.
Yep.
So yeah, we're gonna wind this down. And James, your final comments for tonight.
For my city brothers and sisters, I hope that you follow your heart on this vote for this contract and know that no matter what, you're going to have a contract at some point. But the question is, if you can hold out and maybe go to arbitration, you could have the effect of all the unions that have negotiated awesome contracts for their craft members. We've held out for over 500 days already. What's another month or two? Because that's how long it'll take. A month or two more. You've been there for a while and you can get there. And to our rural brothers and sisters, talk with your city brothers and sisters. Help them through this. We need to all unite together as United States Postal Service workers. Talk with the clerk people, let them know that this happened. Because all the unions need to be aware that this is coming, because it seems like management is going to go even harder against us than they already have, because they know that they have gotten away with way too much already. And the only way to make management sit down and shut up is for us to stand up and show them we're all in this together. Bill?
Well, as a retiree here, it's kind of ironic that I have time to respond to everybody who queries me through instant messaging, phone calls, text, and everything. And like I said, it makes me feel guilty for retiring because of my customers. But yet, seeing what my fellow brothers and sisters are doing in the rural craft in my former office, I made the right decision for me because of the fact that uh, there is an angry Bill inside, and angry Bill would be having a fit right now with what's going on in our office, and seeing how the city carriers are getting slapped in the face with this contract. Yeah, I hold little faith in our national board negotiating anything better. You have to remember the city craft has 200,000 plus members, approximately 70,000 more than we have, and they've always been seen as the big brother to us because they're the stronger union. They win more grievances. They win more money for their craft membership. And that leaves me little hope whatsoever that we'll do any better in future negotiations. Being said, we can always pray for a miracle, but I don't believe God intervenes in contractual negotiations. So my prayers are with the city carriers. My prayers are with the rural craft and the APW. I don't see a good future with this contract being offered to the craft membership, and it just saddens me. It really does. And God, I wish, I hope, I pray, that somehow Don pulls off a miracle and gets you 5% for the next 3 years, because otherwise it'll be the death of the union. It really will be. I I can't foresee in the future, but I already know how many people are going to bail. I know people that are constantly looking to bail. If you're looking at 1.3% over 3 years, I don't care how you work the numbers out, it doesn't keep up with inflation. It doesn't even keep up with your medical insurance increases. So how the hell are table 2 people going to make it? I mean, as a single mom, Kristin knows the pains to stretch every dollar and still have a life. And as vigilant as she is, as many other members of the craft are, it's tough. And if you're on a POV route, it's even tougher. So my prayers are with you, but I don't see a bright future if this contract goes through for the city carriers. And even if it goes to arbitration, I can't see anything but a marginal increase, if anything at all. And the fact that table 2 is still on the table for discussion is disheartening. So God bless you all. I mean, you got a couple more weeks of political mail, and then you get to start looking forward to Christmas. Overtime, parcels out the ass. Everybody be safe, do your job professionally, efficiently, safely, and get home to your loved ones, because you are the most important delivery of the day.
Thank you, guys.
Kristin?
Yes, thank you so much, guys. I did miss being on here last week, I will just say that. But no, both of them have made some good points. And, I just urge those that are in the city craft that do listen, definitely read through your tentative agreement fully, and please vote. Vote what you feel is best. We're not going to tell anybody who to vote for, what to vote for, yes, no, whatever. I mean, that is your own personal choice on how you vote. But I do urge you right now, when you receive your tentative agreement, to read that sucker with a fine-tooth comb and vote. Voting is important, however, which way you choose to vote. And, when we have a tentative agreement come out, I'm going to say the same thing to our rural carriers. Read the tentative agreement. Every single union member, if you receive a national magazine, you will receive a tentative agreement in the mail. So when ours is at that time for us, I'm going to urge every single one of you to read that and vote. It takes not a lot of time to do the actual voting. You're going to check yes or you're going to check no. You're going to put them in the proper envelopes, throw a stamp on it, and throw it in the mail. So yes, city side, I urge you to make sure you fully read your full tentative agreement and vote. It is important. As a union member, even if that's the only thing you do is vote, that is standing up, that is being active. Please vote. So, on that note, yes, political season, it is winding down, thank goodness. But, it's just going to get heavier until after the election. And then we'll get the residual that didn't get out before the election. That's always fun to deliver. But on that note, guys, stay safe out there. Weather's changing. I know right now we hit peak for fall, autumn, whatever you want to call it, and leaves changing. Absolutely gorgeous drive to the other side of the state and back again for me this weekend. When I was downstate, my parents live 4 hours south west of me. When I was down in that region, the colors were starting to pop down there too. Absolutely gorgeous. Loved it. But please keep in mind, those leaves fall, they get wet, they get slippery. So please be safe when you're out on your routes, when you're having to walk a package to its delivery point. Take those in mind too. Leaves, when they get wet, they do get slick. I know, been there, done that. And stay safe this week, guys, and we'll be back next week.
Okay, here's the Bill story for the week.